Stories. Although Uganda's debt burden stands at an alarming $19 billion, approximately 71 trillion shillings, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank insist that the country's debt is still sustainable. In this report, Hakim Wampamba assesses Uganda's debt burden.
Debt sustainability measures the ability of government to meet all its current and future payment obligations without exceptional financial assistance or going into defaulting. Uganda, just like any other country, has borrowed from external and internal sources to meet its development needs, and as such, the debt stock stands at $19 billion, approximately 71 trillion shillings. Kenya's current public debt stands at $35.9 billion, Tanzania at $26 billion, while Rwanda is saddled at $5.4 billion. And it goes without saying that all these economies are different in structure and growth. Lest we forget, Uganda's contracted loans on projects such as the Entebbe Express Highway at $350 million from the Exim Bank of China, whose repayment schedule started in July 2019. Karuma Hydropower Dam at $1.7 billion, 85% from the Exim Bank of China. Isimba Hydropower Dam at $567 million, 85% from the Exim Bank. Patrick Tumwebaze is Executive Director at the Uganda Debt Network, shares his thoughts on these investments.
For us to invest in those infrastructural developments is very good because, one, if you invest in roads, if you invest in power generation, you actually attract investors. But the issue is, have you also looked at these sectors of the economy that would want to work with that framework to be able to grow? That's the question.
According to Tumwebaze, debt is good, but parameters for measuring sustainability.
We have the other byproducts, we have plastics, we have so forth, but that's not
still on course.
Because for them, they are running on the figures.
Economists like Professor Uganda'S Nwagaba disagree, however, insisting certain things must be done in order to reduce the debt burden that could...
is small. The export earnings are relatively smaller in relation to import invoices. You are going to have a trade deficit, you have got a negative trade balance, and you have got a lot of debts contracted.
Professor Nwagaba warns on the implication of domestic borrowing that could be a soft target for government at the moment.
While for us we are highly risky, commercial banks will find the government no risk at all. So they will prefer usually to lend to government. So that's why we say that the government in that case will crowd out, will come.
Economic development can be a little tricky. Nonetheless,
all these funds in one.
Can we look at export promotion?
Hakim Wampamba.
Julius Kapwepwe from Uganda Debt Network is with us this evening, and we're talking debt and the use of it. Julius, thank you so much for joining us this evening. In your opinion, how have we used...
I could say in some of the cases it has been well used, in some of the cases it has Kakata 41-kilometer road, where we borrowed from Badea, we borrowed from the United Kingdom, directly into the East Africa, into Port Bell and into Bukakata, Masaka. And if you looked at Blimase, Kaboya road, 66-kilometer 5D, and the prospecting owners, companies and Ugandans participating, say it is a good kind of 17.5-kilometer road that for about 15 years now has swallowed several loans, not complete, then definitely you could think that
domestic borrowing or our focus should rather be placed on the external debt?
Both. Domestic borrowing, nonetheless, is more dangerous because rather than crowd them in. So to debt, the cost of debt onto the economy becomes a definite market. It is a killer. We should listen.
3.8 trillion, 2 trillion from...
is already an indictment on the various institutions of what people earned many years ago. I think that is room for mischief and should be questioned.
Well, unfortunately, Julius, we don't have supplementary time here, so we just have to plan for the time we have. But it's always a pleasure having you on, Julius Kapwepwe, from the Uganda Debt Network. At your house, how much money they are going to use, and you leave it with them.
As long as it's not frequent.